Welcome to Conspiracy Theories, where we explore fascinating events, mysteries, and theories from the past. Today, we'll be diving into one of the most famous conspiracy theories of all time, the belief that the Apollo 11 moon landing was faked. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to walk on the moon. It was a monumental achievement in human history. But some people still believe that it was all a hoax staged by NASA and the US government. But why do they think this, and what's the evidence they present? Let's take a closer look. To understand why this conspiracy theory emerged, we need to look at the context of the 1960s. The US and the Soviet Union were in a fierce Cold War rivalry, and the space race was a key part of that competition. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy made the ambitious promise to land a man on the moon before the end of the decade. By 1969, the US succeeded, with Apollo 11's historic landing. But this success wasn't just about science, it was about national pride and showing technological superiority. And for some, that success just didn't add up. Let's look at the key arguments of the moon landing hoax theory. One of the most common claims is that the photos taken on the moon were staged. Skeptics point to shadows that seem off or the lack of stars in the photos. They argue that the lighting is inconsistent and that the photos were taken in a studio. But these arguments have been debunked. The shadows can be explained by the angle of the sunlight and the reflective lunar surface. As for the lack of stars, the cameras were set to capture the brightly lit surface of the moon, so stars didn't show up in the photos. Another claim focuses on the US flag. In photos, it appears to be fluttering, which doesn't make sense in the vacuum of space. But the flag wasn't fluttering because of wind, it was simply rippling as it was planted into the ground, and its design kept it unfurled, which gave it a waving appearance. Then, there's the argument about the Van Allen radiation belts, which are areas of intense radiation surrounding the Earth. Conspiracy theorists argue that any spacecraft passing through these belts would be fried by radiation. However, this has been thoroughly debunked by scientists. The Apollo spacecraft passed through the belts quickly, and the astronauts were protected by the spacecraft's shielding. Plus, NASA carefully planned their trajectory to minimize exposure. Despite these debunked arguments, some still believe that the moon landings were staged, driven by a mistrust of government and the allure of mystery. After all, the idea that a space agency could successfully fake such a monumental achievement is a compelling one for some. In the age of the internet, these theories have spread even further, finding a place in online communities where misinformation can easily be amplified. However, the evidence supporting the reality of the moon landings is overwhelming. Thousands of people worked on the Apollo missions, and the Soviet Union, which was in direct competition with the US at the time, never disputed the landings. In fact, the Soviet Union tracked the Apollo missions and even congratulated the US on the successful landing. In addition, the moon rocks brought back by the astronauts have been studied worldwide, and modern lunar orbiters have photographed the Apollo landing sites, showing the remnants of the lunar modules. While conspiracy theories are often captivating, it's crucial to remember that the moon landing is one of the most well-documented achievements in history. The hoax theory, while entertaining to some, simply doesn't hold up when examined closely. That's it for today's episode of History Uncovered. I hope you enjoyed this quick dive into the famous moon landing hoax conspiracy. If you liked the episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our other content. Keep questioning, stay curious, and remember that history is often stranger than fiction. Until next time, take care.